Yes, welcome. It's March, the month of women. A month I've grown to love because every year there's a theme that we all rally around to look at issues that concern women. Not just because I'm a woman, but because I know that women are important. In 2014, I became the Vlisco Woman of the Year. So I'm very proud that this year they're going out to look for another woman that they see inspires other women. I have always won the points anyway, but I was surprised that women voted for me. This time, what I'm happy about and why I'm sharing this with you is that when we aspire for knowledge, we think about wisdom and grace in discovering yourself. And our mothers usually are our inspiration. So the brand this year has decided that if you are lucky enough, you may be able to gift your mother with a Vlisco. It could be one of these floral ones or some of the classic ones. All you need to do is buy from any of the outlets, and you possibly could win a gift for your mother as we celebrate International Women's Month. On the show, I am talking about the theme for the year, and that theme is Leave No Woman Behind. And there's a hashtag around it, Press for Progress. Now, whenever I think about progress for women, one person always comes to mind that has a voice that is louder than whispers. And this is not a pun for words, because actually, she has done a lot of work for gender activism. I'll take a break. Some of you may have already guessed, but I'll take a break and I'll come back and introduce to you my guest on the show today. We'll be right back. Let me describe her first as I welcome you back. She's a gender specialist. I don't want to make a mistake. If you went to Wikipedia, you probably won't have the kind of detail I have in this one. She's a gender specialist, a social entrepreneur, a policy advocate, and a writer. 3 books in her belt already in less than 3 years. She has a BA and an MA in history, and she has another MA in gender and society, plus a PhD from Tai Sholari, and everything is around women's empowerment, leadership, and all of that. But she's a co-founder of the African Women's Development Fund, AWDF. She ran it as an ED for about 5 years and left in 2010. And since then, she is the principal partner of Amandla Consulting Leadership Development for Women. That's what they focus on. Some of you may remember her as the wife of the immediate past governor of Ekiti State. My guest today is Bisi Fayemi. It's nice to have you on set.
Thank you, Adeso. It's great to be here.
When I was reading all of those things, did I get everything right?
Well, apart from the AWDF bit, I was with AWDF for 10 years, not 5.
From inception to 10?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
And I'm still on the board, but I stepped down as ED in 2010.
But let me tell you, I mean, that's neither here nor there. What's interesting me right now is this, Loud Whispers. You know, when you launched this book late last year, in December last year, the beauty about what you did was you brought different people to read different things in this book. It seems to me that this book talks to many more than just women. It talks on leadership and talks on all of those things. What I find curious, all the books you've written, there's something about whispering in it. What's the whispering about?
Well, I think in all the things I've put together, there's something about voice. And that, of course, is tied into the whole notion of whispering. Around 20 years ago, I was running a leadership program, the African Women's Leadership Institute. So one of the programs was taking place in Uganda, and I was with a colleague of mine. She had just got news that her aunt had passed away. So my friend sat there, very sorrowful, and I was trying to comfort her. And she was saying things like, my aunt was a wonderful woman. She was so sweet. She was so kind. She never spoke above a whisper. And afterwards, when I was on my own, I played the conversation back in my mind. She never spoke above a whisper. I thought to myself, when I, Olabisi, die, I don't want to be remembered as someone who never spoke above a whisper. I understood the context within which my friend was saying it, because in many parts of Africa, women are brought up to be seen and not heard. There's a limit to what women can do or what they can aspire to. But I didn't want that to be my life, and I don't want that to be the life of any woman around me, and certainly not a life I want for any of our daughters. Because if you go through life whispering, it means you are being silenced, it means you can't speak up, and it means you don't have a voice. And so I believe that's become a kind of brand for me in anything I do, my activism, my writing, my speaking. It's all about giving women voice and giving women the space to express themselves.
I know you. I know that you were able to express yourself in your own home. That's a function of the kind of father that you had or the kind of mother that you have?
Both, but particularly my father. My father was amazing. He had 3 children. I'm the first, and I have a brother and a sister. And he would tell anyone who was prepared to listen that my daughters are worth more to me than 10 boys. And so my father built that confidence in me right from an early age to know that I could do anything I wanted to set my mind to.
And that has helped you too. And a very supportive husband, if I must say.
Absolutely.
I mean, we call him a feminist, a male feminist.
He is.
How would you define a male feminist?
A male feminist is a man. It took me a long time to accept that men can be feminists.
You didn't agree?
Quite a while ago, and up to now, many of us feminists are a bit cautious when some men declare themselves feminists. But we have come to a consensus that since the way I define feminism, it's a global struggle against all forms of patriarchal oppression. And since women are the ones who believe that they're the ones who suffer under patriarchal institutions, political, economic, social, religious, cultural, and so on, we know what is at stake. But there are some men who share in those ideals as well. So the few men who are interested in dismantling patriarchy, or at least in interrogating these norms and values that make women second-class citizens throughout their lives, they are welcome on board in our struggles. So yes, we do have men who describe themselves as feminists, and we welcome them into our movement.
Well, describe them, so they are feminists because they are fighting for equality, and it's just equality and women issues, patriarchy, so we can call them feminists.
We can, but the thing is, I always add a caveat. Any man who calls himself a feminist has to be prepared to give up the power and the privileges conferred on him by patriarchy. If he's prepared to do that and work with other men to do the same, then absolutely.
What are such powers, for example?
The powers to command and instruct women, the powers to occupy public spaces and believe that they are the only ones who can make decisions and women don't have a voice, the power to determine the movements of women, and the power to, as I said earlier, make women second-class citizens throughout their life cycle. That's the kind of power that informs the way we treat newborns in some parts of our communities. When you give birth to a baby boy, you kill a goat. When you give birth to a baby girl, you kill a chicken. So look at the value of a goat and the value of a chicken. That tells you the premium we place on the boy child and the premium that we ultimately place on malehood or masculinity in our lives.
I find that interesting because in the book, though, you have some sections that deal with this.
Yes, I do.
Which one would you say is the most, because the intergenerational one, there are tributes, there's one on activism. Which one is closer to your heart? Because it's a compilation of all you've written, right?
Yes, there are different sections there. There is a section on intergenerational issues, and I believe I would recommend the one on how to be a good husband. And what inspired that was a couple of men started sending messages to me or engaging me in conversations saying, I'm always talking about women. What message do I have for men, especially young men who are starting their lives out with men? They don't want to do the wrong thing. What section is that one in again? It's intergenerational issues. But then for people who want to have a better understanding of feminist issues or gender and power, who are confused with all the terminologies or some of the ways in which the media has managed to manipulate the feminist agenda, there's a whole section there on feminism and gender. And there's an essay in particular that I'd like to draw people's attention to that I called Feminism 101.
But I wanted to, because I found that quite interesting, how to be a good husband. You have, I think, how many do you have there? 10? You have 10. You said protect her, communicate, do things together, don't betray her trust, make important. But you know, you have this one, support her aspirations and make love regularly.
But of course, men are always saying that their wives don't want to make love. But we also know quite a number of women, particularly women who are middle-aged and above, who their husbands don't want to make love to anymore. They kind of want to retire them so they can go around chasing after chickens all over the place. So yes, that's one of the responsibilities that a husband has.